Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, depending on where you're tuning in. If you're tuning in from Pennsylvania, where I'm broadcasting from, then you are your 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Well, let's see. The exact time here is 12:34 p.m. Yep, that's we start the stream at 12:30 p.m. Get a little bit of 4 minutes to kind of get into the mode that, okay, you're going to be on air, so don't eat your feet on the camera. Not that I eat my feet, I don't. I'm just saying some people probably have to think things like that. My metaphorical eat my feet is my business, but I have my own metaphorical eat my feet, so I'm sure we all do. So it's a little toasty time to get warmed up and ready and rambunctious. But I don't have a lot to say to open up this part of the show, which may be consoling to some or incredibly frustrating for others. It depends on who you are. At any rate, let's get to how did we get here and what are we doing? This is the intro we're doing every single show because I like to repeat myself. So we go to Freako.com. That is where everything ends up. But we're going to come back to Freako.com because the first step is go to Newsalite.com. That's the glitz, the odd, the under the radar, the hard to believe news at a glance. These are just links to news stories from across the interwebs that fit in that categories. I picked my 10 stories, whatever maybe you want to call it, the best or the 10 stories that I would most like to talk about, essentially, is what I pick. And those stories end up going to back to Freako.com. And then we go over to Obamacare.tv, free market social engineering for the masses. And all that type of linkage goes into my little database. And I spit out stuff and enumerate the 10 that I want to send back to Freako. And then we go to Pioneering News. This is my favorite aggregate. And this is Tech, Science, Underground News Links. And I like this one so much, I actually have a lot. I look at, I think, I don't know what number I said before, but I don't know if I came close to saying what it was, but I thought about it some more. I look at roughly about 600 or so links a day on the Newsalite site and maybe about 300 or so links a day from the Obamacare site. And then maybe about 1,200 from Pioneering News. So I search and I have methodologies that I use in regular. I have my forms and functions, and I really love the Pioneering News stuff. But I think it's worth paying attention to these other things, like the Newsalite. I want to make sure I get fun stuff in and weird and glitzy top of the now. Outside of Coronaville, Newsalite would look a lot different than it does right now. Coronaville has really changed everything. Everything looks almost the same now because of Coronaville. But you will notice that Newsalite is how does Coronaville affect the glitz is what you end up seeing. And these are interesting archives too for me to have. Even I'm not a historian, but I guess you could say I'm an amateur historian. So someday maybe I'll do something with all of this, look back and see what this all is. And then it all goes to Freako.com, and I pick the 14 stories that I most want to talk about. And I have put them into different categories, and that is Freako.com. But before we can get to Freako.com, see, all of this is just for you streaming, whatever. So maybe it's just it's basically a glorified ad, but I think it's a cool ad. Maybe I got to do something. No, I don't want to do that. I'll probably develop a methodology where I get this down so it'll probably take me maybe a minute because compared to what I'm doing now. I don't really have a feel for it quite yet, and this is a process that I've kind of decided I'm just going to let it hopefully organically emerge. I do think I'm getting tighter in how I'm going to do this. So if you guys are watching early, then you get to see the process in action. Maybe by the end of the week, I'll have it down to more of a finite order. We'll see. But before we begin, it is important for us to prepare, especially for those of us out there that you need this. Deep down, he knew he was right, or she knew, or they knew they was right, or I'm not a they, I'm a he, so he knew they, or whatever it is, all that deep down, y'all knew I was right, and you know who you are.
Warning, the material about the existence was formed the minds of individuals who are limited in their capacity to understand the actual reality of power around them, just as you and everyone else alive and young, which are about to hear opinions, suppositions, like gospel or scientific proofs, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variably firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone we have found. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions of what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, that is the plan. That is always the plan. That is what I pledge to you. And this has been, it has been officially after the end of yesterday's show. It has been a full 6 days. Every day I go without freaking out is an historic record in Frico Talks the News. That's incredible. I don't know how long I can keep this up, but for as long as I can keep this up, every day is a momentous day. So this is awesome. But then the pressure gets on me. And then that's, I don't know. It'd probably be this is it. The rise and the fall of Frico was set at this moment because it sowed his eventual undoing because he would go mad in the end. Mad, I tell you. But we're not there yet. We're still dealing with the world in a quite civil manner, folks. We're doing this. We're pushing on. We're pushing on. Welcome everybody to Frico Talks the News. I am Frico. I am your persona for the day, and that's all you need to know right now. You know, this is a need to know basis. Right now, all you need to know, the persona of the day is Frico. Frico is me. I am Frico. You are listening to Frico Talk the News. Trying not to freak out. We root for the one we live in. The Pragmatist Guide to Nation-Statism. This is the title of Frico Talks the News for Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. And on today's show, you will get brain-proof interfaces for brains. We are about to create an eater of landfill-filling plastic. Cool it, and you can quantum it. The Napoleonic way versus spilled wine on fine carpets. UN prepares to gear up for new Paymaster. China. When nation-states battle to the death, we root for the one we live in. That last one is the dialectical. The poem, the news poem for the day is the Napoleonic way versus spilled wine on fine carpets. I particularly love that title. Just it fits the Dadaist spirit within me. And, you know, I hope this show gets that. I hope, if I'm wrong, if the show doesn't have some degree of a Dadaist vibe to it, then I have utterly failed myself as a human being, and I will probably be facing defenestrations. By the way, you should read the poem by Susan Howe called The Defenestration of Prague. I'm going to have to look that up, see if I can get an excerpt. Maybe I'm going to start sharing some poetry from some other folks on here as well sometimes. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see how this show evolves. Get the Frico Talks daily delivered to your email at frico.com daily. Now let's get set, folks, because we have to get ready to record the first segment. Let's get that set up, because for those of you who have watched ahead, y'all know that what I do during the live stream is I record segments that I then put on YouTube, and I stagger them 1 hour apart between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. And that YouTube channel is Aktun Batsa. So you be sure you go to ACT. I don't have a URL because I have 90 subscribers. So you go to look for ACTIUNEBAZA. That's Aktun Batsa, which means base of power, which within the personas of Paul Gordon Collier, that is the underlying philosophy of this show as well. This is a base of action. Well, you've been hearing about it in the course of the show, and you'll hear more about it in the course of the show as we go along. But it's fitting that we're on that channel. I'll just say that. And, you know, it's our channel, we being the collective that is Paul Gordon Collier. But I'm Frico today, so let's just roll this on. Roll tape. We'll you know what? We'll edit that out in post. Sir, we don't have post. What? You're just doing it on the fly because it's too expensive to have post? Oh, so this is all improvisation and it all stays? Awesome. All right. Well, moving on. Let's get ready to record. You know what? At least that didn't get into the segment part. Boom! It's only in the live stream version, folks. Y'all are the only ones that got that part. Here we go. Let's get ready to do this. Brain-proof interfaces for brains from Science Daily, protecting thin, flexible brain interfaces from the human body. That is so cool. Well, I'm going to read the excerpt here, and let's see if we can walk through this as a family, because I love all of you as a family, of course, every single one of you, of course, no doubt. We can get through this together and figure out what they're saying here. This is from Science Daily. Researchers have demonstrated the ability to implant an ultra-thin, flexible neural interface with thousands of electrodes into the brain with a projected lifetime of more than 6 years. So they could put stuff in your brain and it can stay there for more than... I think I want longer. Listen, having to renew your license is a hassle. And I do that every, 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. That's a hassle. That's just going to the DMV to get my picture taken. I'm just going to say it, folks. This is a wonderful step in the right direction, but it's not enough. Nope, scrap it. Back to the drawing board. No, I'm just kidding. There are people who have life-threatening, urgent needs for this, that for them, having to go in every 6 years for a tune-up is probably a good trade-off. So I don't want to make light of that. But still, I want something that can put in my brain and make it all juicy fine. Any kind of impurities and any kind of things that's clogging the whole flow, and it's on it. I want that, but I want to be able to design it myself with the AI that I designed myself. So I can have the whole thing insulated, basically off-grid AI. That's going to be the thing, off-grid AI. I said it here first, ladies and gentlemen, off-grid AI. Mark that down, off-grid. As a matter of fact, I tell you what, let's just see. Hold on, let's just see before I get ahead of myself. Because I've done this before. I've said stuff before. Off-grid AI. Let's see. How to hide the perspective grid in Adobe. Hiding grid on background. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I see no record here. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong. There ain't no off-grid AI. That is the term. I have to remember this. Please remember this. I have to remember this. Okay, what do I do? I know what I do. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, while I'm actually recording this show, because everything is on the fly, and this is one of the interesting parts of the show, I am actually going to take time to write that phrase, off-grid AI, because that's the thing, folks. That's the thing. Off-grid AI is the thing. That is going to be the term. If you can create the AI in your own space, off-grid, if you are creating the tools that you are singularitying with, as it were, that's a whole different game. That's a fundamental game changer across the board. That is a superheroing of every human being. That is a democratization of everything all at once. That is a new reality. That is a consensual reality. That is a reality in which folks have a tendency to like, hey, you bumped into me, but it's cool. Yeah, I'm sorry I bumped into you, but it's cool. Yeah. You know, because nobody wants to beat each other to death, because that's about what they'd have to do, because we all be like cranking it. But if we're all cranking it to the same system that is controlled by a tiny number of individuals, then that's a nightmare. So it's the theme of the show, man. It's just what it is what it is. It just keeps coming back to that over and over again. Maybe it's only because I'm looking for it. That's probably true. But hey, this is my show. And my job is, I don't even have a job. All right. I'm archiving right now. I'm allowing you guys to go along. But don't get me wrong. I'm happy to take money from anybody who wants to do it. Freako.com tips. I'm just saying, honestly, whether you pay me or not, I'm doing this. Doing this just like this. All right. The results appearing online April 8th in the Journal of Science Translational Medicine were published by a team of researchers led by Jonathan Viventi, Assistant Professor of Biomedical Engineering at Duke University, John Rogers, the Louis Simpson, and I don't know why I'm reading all these numbers and names. You don't need to read all these names, do you? Trying to get these sensors to work in the brains is like tossing your foldable, flexible smartphones in the ocean and expecting it to work for 70 years, said Viventi. Except we're making devices that are much thinner and much more flexible than the phones currently on the market. That's the challenge. We can't do it. It was too difficult. Fire this person. Just fire this person. I'm just kidding, by the way. Totally kidding. This is amazing. This is an amazing development. And again, if it's a development that is put into the hands of the individuals and the consensual associations as opposed to the centralized, at best cooperative, which is kind of a transition between consensual and non-consensual, and then going into coercive. Well, there's degrees, but essentially it's really there is the consensual, there is the cooperative, and then there is the coercive. So between those two, there's the cooperative. So even the cooperative, no, we don't want that one as well, because cooperative has kind of degrees removed non-consensuality built into it. But I'm not going to go down that. We don't need to talk in detail. I'm trying to keep things without trying to go into too much stuff all the time. I'm listening to some people talking to me, and they're like, "Dude," and I'm doing my best, family. I'm doing my best. Here we go to the next story. How about we get to the next story? Martians ain't sci-fi anymore. Maybe, but really, totally maybe. How about this picture? Yeah, I picked this picture. This is like, you got to find copyright-free pictures, and then I don't even. These are just images that, it's the URLs. I'm not posting anything on my site. So this picture person here, this is pretty awesome. This is Martians right there. This is some old school Martians. This is what you get when you scrape for the free. This is what you get. But it's still pretty cool. I thought it was a great image. I was proud of this image. I was, wow, all right, this is awesome. And then I'll read the story. And okay, I've had some fun. In a recent paper published in the International Journal of Astrology, Vincenzo Rizzo from the National Research Center in Cosenza, Italy, asked a provocative question. Why are many scientists reluctant to accept the use of geological methods to identify biological processes on Mars when those methods are commonly used on Earth? He points to a case in Germany from 1908 when a scientist by the name of Ernest Kalowski proposed that layered mounds, columns, and sheet-like sedimentary rocks called stromatolites were of biological nature. His contemporaries did not believe him, but Kalkowski Yeah, Kalkowski, I nailed that one. Was later proven correct when it was recognized that stromatolites formed because biofilm was composed of cyanobacteria and other microorganisms trapped sediments. Stromatolites are now known to be the oldest evidence for life on Earth, stretching back at least 3.5 billion years, and they still exist in some remote regions, such as Shark Bay, Australia, mate. Australia. So what do you think? So what it really comes down to is, hey everybody, if there's life on Mars, I know where we could probably find it. But come on, man. My title kind of nailed it. Chase for past life on Mars gets stronger. The stronger is, hey everybody, let's look at this. But anyway, I think that's pretty cool. I think it would be so awesome if they found life on Mars. Now, I want to write the story, although I never will, because there's a lot of things I want to do. That would be really low on my list. But I want to write a story where they find life on Mars. But what happens is it just does this ramification, all kinds of people do all kinds of crazy things because of this, and Martian cults, and then about 100 years later, they find out that the life they found on Mars was brought to it from one of our probe rover whatever things, and that all of that was false, and there was no life on Mars. That would be a beautiful story. I'd love to write those closing scenes. That's all I really want to write is the closing scenes. It'd be a beautiful story, though. Beautiful story. All right. Zoom hearings don't mean pajama party, says judge from Huffington Post. Florida judge begs lawyers get dressed for Zoom hearings. Well, I mean, you know, it's so fascinating what's going on with all of these, with the stripping away of all of the grandeur and the artifice that we're used to seeing from everyone. All of these major sports networks, major news networks producing, well, they're producing content in the raw without the glitz. And it's not just them, though. It's even spilled over into the legal system. It's everybody is getting, maybe in some ways it's kind of a diametrical or dialectical thing going on, where we have both. We have on one side, we have so much fear, anger, frustration, and then in another sense, so much more chill and relax. It's like mega chill and relax on one side and total apocalypse on the other. So we're seeing human beings, we're really seeing pretty quickly, and this is, the last part was really on this point, but a little bit off topic. We're really seeing human beings without the veneer, who are the human beings that have any degree of substance. And I'm just going to say celebrities, for the most part out there, newscasters, all of you folks, you come across as incredibly out of touch with the blood and bone reality of the world that most of us understand. I'll just say that. That would be what most people call, he's a real one. Or, salt of the earth, whatever your phrase is. Man, woman, day of the people, whatever it is. But anyway, for this, back to this, let's actually read the hilarious excerpt, which I think is pretty hilarious, subjectively, but A Florida judge has one request for attorneys showing up for court hearings via Zoom. Get out of bed and put on some clothes. Why? Broward Circuit Judge Dennis Bailey made the pleas in a letter published by the Weston Bar Association news outlets reported. It is remarkable how, so he probably put in a complaint. I wonder, did he do that? Is that what he did? You know, it's a letter, but they don't. What was the letter? What was the context of the letter? It is remarkable how many attorneys appear inappropriately on camera, Bailey said in the letter. One male lawyer appeared shirtless. I don't see a problem. And one female attorney appeared still in bed, still under the covers, you rocket girl. Dude, come on. They're killing it. They're nailing it. They're doing it right. Make the best of a bad situation. Come on, Judge. Lighten up. Take off that suit. Take off that tie. You know, this is because for them, this is the great equalizer, as Madonna said, or whatever that was. That half elfin lizard hybrid, half Madonna thing. Yeah, the lizard elfin hybrid is one thing, and that's like half. I guess it's like a quarter elfin, a quarter lizard, and then a half Madonna, because I still see like some essentials of Madonna, but through the lizard elfin glaze, it's difficult to see. But she nailed it, man. She nailed it. So, speak your truth, girl. Speak your truth. I know you want to blow up the White House, which is really, really bad, and you should. That's a bad girl. Don't ever say that again. That's bad. Don't do that, Madonna. Did anybody ever talk to her about that, by the way? Because it seems like I think maybe they probably did. Because that's kind of whack. I'm just saying, that's kind of mental, man. Kind of mental. But she was dead on this time. She's dead on. So many of these folks are dead on. So that's what you need to do, Bailey. You need to chill out, because for Bailey, this is like his thing. It's like, I am the king. You get to go up on top of that throne of thrones, and you got your billowy blacks all flowing all over the place, making you look like the Mac Daddy in the room. It's like, oh yeah, he's killing it. He's killing it. He's killing it. Yeah, you know what that's about, Bailey. You know what that's about. And now it's like, oh man, now I'm just like one of them. I'm just one of them now. I'm just one of them. Bailey isn't making any exceptions for lawyers lounging in the Florida sunshine either. Putting on a beach cover-up won't cover up your poolside in a bathing suit, he wrote. Indeed. Listen, I never thought I'd say this, but the lawyers are right. And I recorded this. This is on the YouTube segment one, too. So that's what makes this work. So listen, I'll tell you what. If you haven't subscribed to YouTube channel here, ActuBatsa, you should do that, because that's where you get these segments from. This is the first segment that I post for the day. It's the 4 o'clock segment. We've got the talk feature coming up at 5 o'clock, and the talk feature is going to be, you see a little teaser there, we're about to create an eater of landfill-filling plastic. So if you're watching on YouTube's ActuBatsa channel, that's what you'll see then. For the rest of you, hold on. No. Y'all know I don't like leaving the light on when I leave a room. That's not how you do it. No, it's not. No, oh, that's nasty. That's nasty. I'm sorry, that was pretty weak. I tried. I couldn't. Man, I feel like I let you down. I really thought I could nail that Cleveland there. I felt like I had the vibe, I had the flow, I had the K, and it just never came out. Never came out. I just can't quite get it. I don't have the throatlage required for that action right now. I'm going to take a sip of water, though, before I get to the talk feature here. This is why you watch the live stream, because otherwise you don't get to see this sip of water. See, the segment people only, they don't get this beautiful. Look what I have here. This is my daughter has a couple of these cups, and I love them. They're so beautiful. They're perfect, aren't they? So wonderful. Really, really love. My daughter is 15. So, Hello Kitty. Rock on. Rock on. I got to get this sip of water in the this Hello Kitty water has to touch my throat or I won't be able to talk any longer. Did that sound appropriate? Hello Kitty. Should I have not said that? Comment down below if that's true. All right. Let's get to our feature segment here. Let's get ready to record. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, oh, yeah. Let me say this real quick. So for folks watching on the live stream here, you see this little video thing here? You'll notice all of these feature things. They have these videos. These are basically the YouTube playlist for Action Batsa. So if you go to that playlist, then whatever the latest has a segment that's a talk feature, whatever latest talk feature has been published, it'll appear here. So you can always go to freako.com and view all of these videos as well. So I encourage you to subscribe and do everything that I tell you to do, especially sending me money. Lots and lots of copious amounts of dollar bills, like $1 here, $1 there, and I swear, if I get enough dollars, I will. I'm going to stop climate change, metaphorically. If you do that, if you send me dollars here and dollars there, I'll let you know when I have enough dollars. I will metaphorically stop climate change. Now let's get ready to record the segment. This is our talk feature for Freako Talks the News for on Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. This is, we are about to create an eater of landfill-filling plastic. The trouble with plastic may soon be a thing of the past as we recycle plastic like a boss. Like a total boss. Thanks to the help of our hungry enzymes. They're mutants, they're enzymes, and they're ours. Yeah, these hungry enzymes love to eat plastic, or so it seems, because when they get near the stuff, they eat that up like it's their last supper. Last supper. Now, there's hope outside of Coronaville, because maybe on the other side of our journey, there will be landfills waiting to be converted to enzyme food. And then the enzyme food will be turned into fuel that will fuel our homes for the next billion. Okay, I made that last part up. From Truth Theory. This mutant bacterial enzyme could recycle plastic bottles in just hours. Here's an excerpt. It's one of the biggest challenges facing humanity, how to stop the tide of plastic pollution that is suffocating our planet. It is, actually. Now, a French company called Carbios has developed a mutant enzyme formula which can break down plastic into a pristine, recyclable form in only a few hours. The company's idea, and I really like reading it that way, in only a few hours. The company's idea is to use an enzyme that is found within composted leaves. Composted leaves, yeah. I almost read composited, and then the brain stopped in between. It was like, to break down plastic. Already, they are working with global companies, Pepsi and L'Oreal, to try and roll out their ideas on a mass scale within the next 5 years. We are the first company to bring this technology on the market, Carbia's deputy chief executive, Martin Stephan, told The Guardian. Our goal is to be up and running by 2024-2025 at large industrial scale. We did this interview 3 months ago. Hey, Martin, how's everything going right now? We're all going to die! We're all going to die! Ah! No, Martin's fine. No, he's fine. Everyone's fine. We're all gonna be fine, except for those of us that are not. Oh, I kid. I'm here all week. Yeah, that's it. that is the feature for the day. So every once in a while, that's what a feature will be like. It'll be short and sweet. It'll be something like this. It'll be, good news. This is awesome news. This is awesome news, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go. I gave you all some good news. So this has been your 5 o'clock show, which is only 3 minutes and 38 seconds and counting long. And don't get ready for the 6 o'clock show, which is going to be Talk Focus. And that is going to have as its top focus story, Cool It and You Can Quantum It. All right. So I stopped that recording. And I want to turn the lights out here, metaphorically speaking. Okay, that was good timing. There you go. Woo! All right. So we got the focus. We're getting to the focus right now. That's what we're getting to right now. So let's get ready to get the focus. Take another sip of water here. Yeah, every once in a while. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a short show today. Every once in a while that might happen too. This is a show which is not bound by time. Well, it is bound. It's all bound by time, certainly. And I can only go so long with the show because I actually, as soon as I'm done with the show, then I have to get all of the segments converted and whatever, published. Get them all published is what I need to do. Let's get to the focus here. Get there lined up. All right, there's the music, and here we go. This is the Talk Focus for Frico Talks the News for on Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. Our top focus story, Cool It and You Can Quantum It. The deep chill could make quantum computing a thing we could see in our daily lives, but the size of the present-day techniques of cooling those hot quantums is a major hindrance to having quantum computers in every wrist buddy, or whatever they call the thing that has your quantum-powered, blockchain-connected AI buddy at your beck and daily call. I didn't write beck and daily call, but I should have. A recent development in refrigeration could shrink power needed as well as the size required to keep these quantums from blowing themselves up. Seriously, these guys get like hot. Like as hot as I am, even hotter. I know all of you. I get all the emails. I know. The breakthrough came in electronic refrigeration technology and has something to do with helium isotopes. From phys.org, new electronic cooling technology to enable miniaturization of quantum computers. And here's an excerpt. VTT researchers have successfully demonstrated a new electronic refrigeration technology that could enable major leaps in the development of quantum computers. Present quantum computers require extremely complicated and large cooling infrastructures that is based on mixture of isotopes of helium. The new electronic cooling technology could replace these cryogenic liquid mixtures and enable miniaturization of quantum computers. In this purely electrical refrigeration method, cooling and thermal isolation operate effectively through the same point-like junction. In the experiment, the researchers suspended a piece of silicon from such junctions and refrigerated the object by feeding electrical current from one junction to another through the piece. The current lowered the thermodynamic temperature of the silicon object as much as 40% from that of the surroundings. This could lead to the miniaturization of future quantum computers, as it can simplify the required cooling infrastructures significantly. The discovery has been published in Science Advances. The demonstrated cooling effect can be used to actively cool quantum circuits on a silicon chip or in large-scale refrigerators. Needless to say that we at Blue Force are following this new electrical refrigerator development with great interest, said Dave Gunnarsson, Chief Sales Officer at Blue Force Oys, the leading company of refrigerator solutions for quantum systems and computers. That is So let's get through this again here. Let's try to understand this. In the purely electrical refrigerated method, cooling and thermal isolation operate effectively through the same point-like junction. In the experiment, the researchers suspended a piece of silicon from such junctions and refrigerated the object by feeding electrical current from one junction. So the current lowered the thermodynamic temperature of the silicon. So just the current. Wow. I'm still not quite understanding it. Maybe you guys do. Let's try to break this down. In the purely electrical refrigeration method. In this purely electrical refrigeration method. Okay. That's the method. Cooling and thermal isolation operate effectively through the same point-like junction. Okay. So they've reduced. You previously had to have a whole cooling and a whole. Basically, you only need one system. You don't need a complex cooling and then a complex thermal solution, like your air conditioner, your heat sinks, or whatever. So this is saying that you don't effectively need the heat sink part, if I'm reading this right, if they're going through the same junction. In the experiment, the researchers suspended a piece of silicon from such junctions and refrigerated the object by feeding electrical current from one junction to another through the piece. So they were able to refrigerate it by just passing this current through it. And I'm assuming you could regulate this current to go hot or cold, maybe. I'm not sure, but so if you're able to cool it with just electrical currents, then it significantly reduces the moving parts. And then you can talk about miniature quantum computers on your wrist, powering your AI buddy. And again, you want the AI buddy to be yours, not part of a monopolized system that has all of these moral construct codes to determine who gets access to. Well, it's their property. No, it's not. Nothing is anyone's property other than what you hold. It's really always about, well, anyway, never mind. See, I'm doing, see this? Frico talks about the news without freaking out. See, when you start to go down a path in which maybe you're going to get a little angrier or whatever, you're like, we don't need that. We don't need that. We've got, you guys learn the story. That's the essentials of the story. I got that across. I think that's really wonderful. That's fantastic. This is great news. See that? It's wonderful stuff is still happening, even amidst Coronaville. And then there's this. Now I'm going to talk more about this, so I won't say some of the things that maybe I would say here, because I know I'm going to come back to this later. China buries the lead again. Whatever the numbers are regarding China's experience with Coronaville, there is little reason to give any significant efficacy to their numbers, or to treat them as anything other than fiction set in fantasies, at best, on a good day. China may have accidentally let a little truth come out recently, but quickly deleted the offending evidence that suggested the numbers in Wuhan might not be right, and maybe possibly we ain't done with coronavirus in China. We made stuff up. Captain Obvious would be proud of this moment, but here it is from Education Views. China caught in the act while covering up COVID, deleting chilling Wuhan news article on new cases. Excerpt. A Chinese report of thousands of new coronavirus cases in Wuhan was deleted, suggesting the Chinese government is still hiding the truth. Chinese leaders and many medical experts have held up this city as an example of what can be achieved through extreme efforts to contain the coronavirus. Yeah, to contain coronavirus, the paper reported. It's now becoming clear the battle in Wuhan is far from over, and the human cost is much higher than officially acknowledged. The city of Wuhan has announced only 3 confirmed cases of COVID-19 since March 18th. After 77 days of lockdown, restrictions in the city are gradually being lifted, and attempts are being made to revive the local economy. But there is reason to be skeptical of the numbers coming out of Wuhan. After the initial easing of the lockdown, dozens of asymptomatic cases were discovered, resulting in a renewal of restrictions on several housing complexes. According to the Wall Street Journal, one Chinese outlet estimated Monday that there were between 10,000 and 20,000 asymptomatic cases in Wuhan, in a continuation of the censorship and suppression that have defined China's response to the virus. The report was deleted. Like, that story maybe in and of itself might not be all that big a deal, but they can't even let that out. It's because of Chairman Z and the nature of the type of power that legitimizes who and what he is. And who and what he is the, I guess you could say, and I may not fully understand this because I'm still researching and learning, but he is almost the linchpin between heaven and earth. He is what ties all of it together, and the earth includes the people. The people are separate from the earth, but they're also pretty much integral. All of it is one integral. I want to say integrality, but that's not a real word, and it should be. So I'm going to say it anyway. Wait, is it a real word? Integrality. Let's see. Integrality. Integrality. The state he read his article in its entirety. You know what? I'm not. I guess I'm not. That's a different meaning. You know what? I'm just gonna say an integrality and use it my way, and I'm gonna fight for the language to eventually be updated so that the second meaning is the meaning that I'm using. So I will have done my part to mangle the language as it's constantly being done anyway. So I'm going to throw that out there. He is the integrality of the whole, and it is his personification that reflects the greatness of all of China living out this mandate from heaven, which essentially Chairman Z is kind of, in a way, he is kind of the mandate of heaven, but the fruit of his mandate is in the people and the land and the circumstances of the state. So when a plague hits, and I'm not saying this is the plague, but it's somewhere between plague and virus, and more leaning towards plague, although I'm not calling it a plague. But when something like a plague hits, or any approaching it, that is a sign. That is the most, when you have massive natural disasters, that is viewed as an illegitimization of your mandate of heaven. And this is the ultimate. He has reclaimed this in a pretty open and major way, and he began making these shifts maybe back in 2012, 13, but he really made the massive shift starting in 2017. That's when things really accelerated, and he made it kind of official. The socialism with Chinese characteristics, fundamentally basing its authority on the whole mandate of heaven idea, claiming it. He did that in 2017 and was building up this massive following. Even although probably as authentic as it can be, this would be in that cooperative place, an authentic cult following. And then to have this hit, this doesn't align with that type of legitimacy of power. In a lot of ways, also in America, if you want to, we have our own. Everybody has their own legitimization of power, in one way, shape, or form, but our large-scale aggregates, especially our state-scale aggregates, those types of legitimizations of power. For the state-scale corporations, their legitimacy of power is success. It's kind of similar to Chairman Z. They're pretty aligned in the type of motivations that they would have to want to cover up failure. Truth is not an option for those that derive their authority and legitimacy from success. Politicians, they base their particular office on success. So, of course, truth is not a friend for them either, because none of us are successful when in any of the ways that any of these folks could ever claim. None of us are capable of doing the things that they say they can do for us. But the government as authority, and politicians derive their authority from being government, and government derives its authority. And I believe that this is true. That is the fundamental underlying authority in America is this assumption that the government is limited by the Bill of Rights. It's its commitment to limit its own power voluntarily, so-called voluntarily, which means, for instance, allowing its citizens to be armed and dangerous. Like, that is the ultimate gesture of a government that is comfortable with its people and recognizes its legitimacy comes from their ability to have such possessions, to have the capacity to speak and not have it be called hate speech. And if you want to call it hate speech, as long as you're not doing crimes against it, or you're not using your massive corporate monopolistic power to target people because of it. But other than that, hate speech as a construct to limit our speech, it's a fundamental violation of the Bill of Rights. We can't allow that. I mean, unless you want to get rid of that legitimization of power. So for the government, its legitimacy comes from the possession that it doesn't violate our Bill of Rights. And that's shifting in America. And I think that lesser and lesser people really count on the government, or that they have not shifted where they find what they're willing to legitimize power, it seems, more and more, that violates these bills of rights, and their legitimization is something more in line with the Chairman Z thing. It's more or less success-based. It's the perception of success, of awesomeness and greatness, and just following along. So Chairman Z can't tell the truth any more than our politicians can. Right here in America, any more than most governments can, because most governments have various forms of that. But in China particularly, after what Chairman Z did, it's all the more amplified. It was just incredibly bad timing for Chairman Z. They don't call him Chairman Z. He's what is he officially? Premier, or whatever he is. President, whatever crap he is. He's just Chairman Z to me. He had been making he put official documents out there that outlined specifically what his government vision was. As the person who takes the mandate of heaven, it is expected that you have all the laws in your head to design the world that will allow all of the people in harmony with the land, in harmony with the leaders, to reflect this mandate of heaven, this greatness of the fruit of the mandate of heaven. And he was ramping all those things up and building himself up, all these wonderful, fantastic successes that he had behind him. And then at that time, something this epic hits you. I totally understand why they did what they did within the reality of power in the nation-state constructs. But still, the fact that I can understand what they did is also one of the reasons why I fully believe they did what they did, which is they hid this as long as they could. I'm sure that secretly they were trying to do whatever they could to stop it, probably pretty brutally. I'm sure, because they don't have the type of restraints that our government does. And it's not because our government is decent, it's just, well, I'll get more into that actually. You'll see that later on. So I think I'll end this here. So there you go. In the end, though, the story itself is not really a major admission. 10,020. And in general, this site, Education Views, they tend to, I generally trust them, but I do know they tend to be a little bit more amped up than some I would like. But I do like them on the main. So, coming up next at 7 p.m. is our news poem. For the rest of you watching the live stream show, we have reached the half part of the show. Well, not quite, but after I'm done recording this news poem. So the news poem comes on at 7 p.m. and the title for the news poem is The Napoleonic Way versus Spilled Wine on Fine Carpets. And there you get a clue as to what this is about based on the picture there with Trump and Barr. And with that, we'll see you at 7 p.m. Now, not you guys. You guys, we won't see at 7 p.m. You guys, we're still seeing you right now. We're watching you. I'm taking a Hello Kitty sip here. Mm-hmm. Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty sip. So I got my Hello Kitty sip, and now it's time for me to get ready. Take a little break here. Take my halfway story break. Not halfway point, because I never know. Sometimes first half is longer. Sometimes I don't know the times. I don't operate on times. I ain't going to do no times for other than I can't be longer than probably 2.5 hours. I think that's the latest I can go before I have to get out of here and get the segments up. All right, let's get ready to go to break here. We'll see you in about 4 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes, I think, somewhere around there.
Love overwhelmed me. Love overwhelmed me. Love overwhelmed me.
Oh. Stop that. Stop it. This is a family show. We're going to keep this a family show, Franco. We're going to do a family show. We're going to do a family show, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get back to the show. Before we get back to the show, I just want to get everybody. Y'all know who you are. Y'all know who you are that need this. Yeah, he needs some milk. There you go. You know you need this milk.
Warning, the material you're about to be exposed to is foreign to the minds of individuals who are limited in their capacity to understand the actual reality of power around them, just as you and everyone else alive currently are. What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, like gospel, or scientific proofs, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variably firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone who may offend. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions of what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out.
Let's do this thing. We got a news poem coming up here. So let's get ready to record our wonderful. Now, you know what? I'll save this. I actually want to record this because I'm gonna wait. All right, let's get to the recording.
You look here, William Barr said Russian investigation intended to sabotage President Trump's presidency. Barr described it as one of the greatest travesties in American history. He added the FBI launched an investigation into Russia ties without any evidence, without any basis. This is the intent that John Durham has been finding. The U.S. Code, 18 U.S. Code 371 talks about a fraud. If people conspire to commit a fraud and they utilize agencies in the United States government against their stated purpose, that is 18 U.S. Code 371. It's a...
Wow, I just realized sound was not going out that entire time. So this whole part of this segment is just shot. So I'm going to redo this news poem segment. That's unfortunate, but that happens. Alrighty, let's do this again. Alright, this is the news poem for Frico Talks the News on Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. The title of this news poem is The Napoleonic Way versus Spilled Wine on Fine Carpet. Before I read the news poem, I'm going to get on over here. Here we go. I got the post up itself. Before I read the news poem, I want to say a little bit about how it is that I happen to pick this story as the poem for the day. And, well, it was an accident. Somehow, in the course of picking all my stories, when I got to the very end, my last story that I had in my queue that I knew was in the poem category, and last night I had decided I was going to write the poem last. Sometimes I write it first, but last night I decided to do it last. And so I decided I had everything I needed. I came to the end to find this story. Now, this story is not the type of story that I usually talk much about on. Well, certainly I wouldn't pick it for a poem. I wouldn't pick it for a dialectical for the most part. I probably wouldn't even pick it for a feature. Not on Frico. This isn't what I would lead with. But I found this, and I was going to go into my things, because I could change things around if they were published, if I posted them as a wire or a brief or whatever. I could switch things around. I could find the poem story. And then I stopped and I decided, no, I'm going to, this is what I have here. And I tell you the truth, this was not, I don't want to have to go out and find another story. I'll just write this story. I've actually had, for one reason or another, like sometimes I've selected a story to be the poem story. And when I got to it, I was not satisfied with it. And I was more than happy to go and I shift things around a lot. So it's not something I have no problem doing. So it wasn't an avoidance of having to do something like that. It was something that I have done in the past. I wrote a long time ago, maybe 25-ish years ago, maybe. I wrote a series of poems called, I just call them ingredients poems because they were ingredients. Well, they weren't. I didn't just list ingredients, but I wrote these poems in which I used the ingredients in processed food. A lot of chemical names, so I did a lot of fun things. And so I've had some fun, and a lot of herbal names I had fun with, a lot of cool names that I have fun with. But I like taking what I would consider the story like this. This is kind of mundane for me. I mean, everybody's talking about this. And don't get me wrong, like the person who's covering this, I like H.A. Goodman. So he does a good job. I usually try to get my news sources. I have a variety of sources, and I have some folks that are more progressive, some are more conservative, some anarchist folks, but some folks politically out there one way or another. But generally, the people that I listen to are people that have some degree of either analytical or objective capacity that makes me feel like I'm not just getting the shrillitarian version of some faction or another. I'm just not into factional news. And H.A. Goodman, I mean, he's a rabid Trump supporter, but he's no Trumpian. He views Donald Trump as being one of him, as essentially a Democrat. He views Donald Trump as being a Democrat, a union, a pro-union type, minimal involvement in the world affairs, I'll say, non-interventionist, and respecter of bills of rights. That's his idea of a Democrat. In a lot of ways, that used to be what Democrats. This was a fair description of a lot of Democrats, certainly in the 80s and 90s. H.A. Goodman's kind of that ilk, but he's not full of himself. He's well, anyway, he's a good guy to listen to. So I don't mean to critique him when I talk about, because he covers all. This is his thing. This is it. So he has to cover these stories. He only does politics. Primarily, he only does politics. So of course he's going to talk about this major story. It's what he's been talking about for a long time. He's been doing a pretty good job at it. But for me, for my show, this isn't Frico's type of leads and stars. But I put this choice, this challenge before me, and we'll see how well I did. You can think of this though in some part as this is like an ingredient poem, essentially. So let's see first off, let's listen to what H.A. Goodman had to say. Let's pause this music here, and then we'll get his take here.
Broad. It's a very broad legal statute. They actually tried to use that legal statute against President Trump.
Hold on.
Because they were saying, well, there might not be a collusion statute, but there's an 18 U.S. Code 370, a fraud. And they utilize agencies in the United States. Greatest travesties in American history. He added the F.
Sorry, I had this feud.
You don't want the entire thing to be just counted by Democrats. But anyway.
Here we go.
Here, William Barr said Russia investigation intended to sabotage President Trump's presidency. Barr described as one of the greatest travesties in American history. He added the FBI launched an investigation into Russia ties without any evidence, without any basis. This is the intent that John Durham has been finding. The U.S. Code, 18 U.S. Code 371 talks about a fraud. If people conspire to commit a fraud and they utilize agencies in the United States government against their stated purpose, that is 18 U.S. Code 371.
Okay, so you get the general gist there. And I'll take this quote from William Barr on the Russiagate investigation of then presidential candidate Donald J. Trump. My own view is that the evidence shows that we're not dealing with just the mistakes or sloppiness, Barr told host Laura Ingraham. There was something far more troubling here. We're going to get to the bottom of it, and if people broke the law and we can establish that with the evidence, they will be prosecuted. And then you heard some of the things that he said up there. And this is the setup for the news poem. And this is, I had no idea, as often as this case, I start off, I write a sentence, a phrase or something, and then somehow it ends up, at least in my mind, it ends up getting tied into some narrative that forms. But narratives don't often form. In this case, I think I had a narrative that formed, hence the title. So here's a news poem. Let me get my music started. Gotta have my music for the news poem. Gotta. The Napoleonic Way versus spilled wine on fine carpets. I live in a room all by myself, surrounded by spies, and I like it. I walk through the room and I flaunt my future persecution. It is good, so great, really, when you flaunt your future persecution. Think about it. A spot of dark wine, red, blue, whatever. A spot of wine breaks the clean perfection of my lovely mauve rug. Mauve, of course my rug is mauve. The accident is a violation of the perfection, and I must conceal the death. Dragging the center of weight in a convenient statue, hip high, lead heavy. Some conquistador raising his sword in victory from a rising horse. In that way. The Napoleonic way, my way. So the hero hiding the flaw was particularly poetic, at least to me, such as poetry might be to those who barter with such queer affairs. I digest the moment I discovered I was the undisputed victim in the whole affair. My dust settled off of me in magical conformity to my fates, delivered from the pickle juice dripping down my throat and the inappropriate guffaws at pictures of goats and skirts. I was now the maverick victim on the other side of the crash. The idiot with a shiny spoon that every once in a while made a sweet noise when I banged it on my own head. Victim. The one who was spied is spied, not spying, not the salacious spider pulling the universe into its sticky center, but the victim, and authentically so, undisputed. The victim king. The man who made the most of a bad situation and ended up with lead-heavy statues of conquistadors, concealing, securing the spills of dark wines that pale in comparison to being spied on by your own government while you're running for president. Good show, good show. And so it goes. What a miracle, a load of life. The king undone and done again. We've seen it again. And again, the lead-heavy dumpty that fell and did not shatter just got up and humptied again. Hurrah, hurrah, guffaw. I bite my knuckles hard when I imagine the circumstance of such a king on such a throne in such a land as now, the Coronaville hour, where kings perform x-rays on themselves in public without realizing how much they expose, even when they think they are lying. After all, the best liars are the ones who don't know they are lying. So push on. The show rolls. Long live the king and the many who will follow, with the same songs, but different notes, and the same chorus of liars who don't know they're lying. We, the American people. Well, that was a major flubbalubs. I wonder if in the YouTubes I can figure out how to cut that out. That whole silent section. You know, the whole section that was silent, and I had to redo. Well, I didn't fortunately have to redo the whole segment, but I had to do about half of it over again. But I soldiered on. I tell you one thing. I'll tell you, this is how I describe myself. And this isn't really accurate, but I think it's as close as I can to describing what I am in the fundamentals, in what roots me. First and foremost, what roots me is the fear of the Lord. That is first and foremost. So all of this kind of comes from that. I am a Stoic, Epicurean, Christian nihilist. I think that is what best described me. A Stoic, Epicurean, Christian nihilist. And I know nihilists have a bad name, but remember, I'm not just a nihilist. Okay, the nihilist is I'm not listing it in order, but it's but it just sounds better that way. It sounds best that way. A nihilist Christian doesn't sound as good as a Christian nihilist. It really is. The Christian is the most important part of it, but still, all of these things. And I know it's going to sound weird, but even the nihilist, all of it, it comes from my Christianity. But my nihilism might not be like most others. My nihilism doesn't lead doom and gloom because it operates within a family of other thoughts. So it's not alone. It doesn't drive me to look deep into the abyss and lose all my hair and go mad at the age of 49. I didn't do that. I'm 51, so I'm just fine. No, I'm just fine. All right, let's get to the next segment, which is going to be our talk briefs. Let's get to the talk briefs. Get ready for I got the briefs background here, got the music here, and let's get ready. This is the talk briefs for Frico Talks the News for April 15th, 2020. That's Wednesday. That's today. Our top brief of the day is also the image that I chose to use for the story. You know what? I'm going to go up to the image. I think this bears looking into. I really love this. There we go. You know what? Let me just click on this. I really want you to see this image up close. I'm sorry, it matters. Just look at that. United. The United Nations fight for freedom. If that is not, and what is it? Who are they fighting? Who are these? Look at what is up with this? What is up with this? Look, these are the types of tanks that fight Godzilla. These are Godzilla fighting tanks. I recognize them. I've seen my Godzilla movies. Those are classic generic Godzilla fighting tanks. All of this is some of this is like generic kind of even like flattened out Star Blazers. That's old school, man. Star Blazers. And then look at this. This is so beautiful. Look at these flags. Look at all the freedoms and the flags and China. And look at this. Look who's in the center. If you could poke at this. See this? You see this is the center. So that's about right. Roughly speaking about here. So then you got the lower end of the center. And then you got the... what's that? What kind of subliminality is that? What kind of... Come on. What's up with that? I want to know what's up with that, because that doesn't seem right. I'm just saying that I don't think that looks right. I think you guys would agree with me. So let's get to the story itself. But I think that flag really kind of says it all. UN chief targets dangerous epidemic of misinformation on Coronaville. You'll notice my headline is very... I read that out of orders. My headline, UN prepares to gear up for new Paymaster China. I think that's a better title. From WFUV, UN chief targets dangerous epidemic of misinformation on Coronaville. Now here, I'll read their excerpt here. Thailand is reporting the first fatal case of the Coronaville is being transmitted from a dead patient to a medical examiner, a finding that experts say adds to safety concerns for... Okay, so I don't know why I put that in there. But that is important to note that, yes, you can get this from a dead body. That's what they're reporting. So then there's that. Now, where is the right quote here? Okay, here we go. Harmful health advice and snake oil solutions are proliferating, the UN leader said. Wild conspiracy theories are infecting the internet. Hatred is going viral, stigmatizing and vilipenizing. Yeah, I see this. This is their angle. Now, some of this is true, of course, but it's also true of everyone is doing this. I'm going to get to at the end, but it's one of the reasons. Now, I believe that the UN's motivation for pointing out the hatred is just so that they can encourage governments to use their powers to shut down any type of talk that might disfavor China. So anything that suggests China, they'll classify that in and of itself would be racist. If you question Chairman Z, if you call him Chairman Z, if you call him Pooh the Poo-Poo Head Z, then that would be racist. Suddenly a group of 1.3 billion people with the largest economy in the world are suddenly a disenfranchised group. It's what they're banking on. That's what they're hoping. This is the SJW authoritarianism. This is why, in part, this isn't the only reason. I don't want to say China alone is responsible for SJW authoritarianism, but China found a natural vehicle of power to align itself with. And this is why these billionaires, in part, not in whole, because there are other advantages to them using the authoritarian version of SJW, but it's a large part of why they've used it, because it helps their Chinese markets, and they love their Chinese markets. So this is why when you hear these guys talk, it's like, yay, let's stop racism. No, he's not trying to stop racism. He's defending a particular race. Well, not a race, a nation state, really. Actually, when it really boils down to it, he's not defending a race, not defending a nation state. He's defending money. That's what it all comes down to for most of these folks. They're not an ideational. This isn't like a Chinese race supremacism thing. Although for Chairman Z, he does use Chinese. The Han Chinese are the superior. They're 90% of the country, and he absolutely has been pretty open about his. Well, not when he speaks to the West, but you have to read his writings. I don't know if I should start sharing some of these stuff. That might be down rabbit holes, but there's a lot of stuff available out there. I should start talking about some of it. I might in time as we go along. So Gutierrez called the spread of bad and self-serving information a secondary disease to some, if it might seem more like an underlying condition of today's media landscape. To solve the problem, he said, the vaccine is trust. First, trust in science. See, everybody wants that certainty, and I promise you the stars, the promise you the whole universe. Just trust us, trust us, trust us. And then when something goes wrong, it'll always be saboteurs or the haters or the racists or whatever. It'll never be them. And then you'll believe them when they say, listen, we got rid of that thing, now trust us this time. The UN head called on social media companies to do more to root out harmful and bogus claims about Coronaville. See that? This is what we're talking about. There, he's not just talking to governments, but this is why you understand that social media companies are in fact governments. They are states in and of themselves. They are super states. And we have, whichever countries have any company, any social media company that is the primary holder of your public discourse, and that company does not have an allegiance to your country is vulnerable. Like our social media companies, they are decidedly for China. They have thrown in with China. They'll make much more money cozying up to China than they ever will America. And they have nothing. They have no competition. They have nothing to worry about. They feel quite secure where they're at, and we're quite powerless to do anything to stop them. The whole world is Google and Facebook and Twitter and 5 or 6 media companies. That's the whole world to them. That's all they need. And all these companies, this concentration of wealth that these companies have, in most part thanks to IP, intellectual property. These companies, it is in their best interest to side with China. They are multinational companies. They are filled with people from multiple countries at multiple levels, at the highest levels. Their stock owners are from multiple nation states. So they have it would be fiscally irresponsible of them to side with America, to be an American company, to treat the American people like a government should treat them, which is to respect their bills of rights. But you haven't done that. You treat American people like their children. You treat them like the Chinese government treats its people. You're conditioning the American people to react favorably to the Chinese government's preferred version of socialism, which is socialism with Chinese characters. And they don't mean to ever step away from being the world's leader, the apex, the racial apex. And by they, I just mean Chairman Xi, and I'm sure there's literally hundreds of millions of Chinese who fully believe this as well. But there's hundreds of millions, probably more, that don't, that would be happy to walk away from all of this rot. Just like in America. There's hundreds of, well, in our case, we're talking tens of millions, but there's tens of millions of Americans that truly believe this whole Trump is God Emperor. Truly believe that. And there are tens of millions that truly believe that progressivism is the perfect holy personification of political theory in all of its wondrous, moralistically superior forms that will save the world from itself, and anyone who doesn't clearly see that is totally mad and or totally evil. There are people that actually are that insane to believe that. You're always going to have them. So, of course, there's people in China that are that insane to believe the Chairman Xi mythology, the whole socialism with Chinese characteristics. And the UN is getting... Yeah, China makes it a lot easier for you to do things bureaucratically. If you can get people conditioned to accept what the Chinese people have been conditioned to accept, it's so much easier for you to stay right where you're at, secured. As long as you give a significant enough portion of your society the golden awesome life, like say 20-30%, then it doesn't really matter. The others are just, at this point, some of them might even be dead weight because you might not need them soon. So, you know, that's what you're seeing playing out. I know it all sounds insane, but you're literally seeing this stuff unfold before your very eyes. Hopefully at this point, things like this don't sound that insane to you anymore. Not in Coronaville. Not anymore. The veils have been ripped aside on both sides. So if you can see clearly now. Well, sort of. Immune system alteration identified as key process in the male pregnancy pipefishes and seahorses. Here's an excerpt. Reproduction is still one of the greatest mysteries in nature. Pregnancies are usually carried out by the female sex. Only in pipefish and seahorses, males are the pregnant sex. An international team of scientists has deciphered the complex modification of their immune system that enabled male pregnancy. Wow. That's cool. That is... So, how the embryo develops in the womb is a complicated process. You know, hold on one second. I have to get a little Hello Kitty water. There we go. I got that water in. Did that. Sweet times. Sweet times. How the embryo develops in the womb is a complicated process that is still puzzling today. In particular, it is unresolved how the paternal genetic information that is also present in the embryo and the emerging body cells based on their mixed blueprint are tolerated by the maternal immune system and not rejected upon recognition as foreign. The embryo develops in the womb. How the embryo develops in the womb is a complicated process. Okay, so good. It's confusing even to you. That's good. So they don't know how the paternal genetic information that is also present in the embryo and the emerging body cells based on their mixed blueprint are tolerated by the maternal immune system and not rejected upon recognition as foreign. What prevents the body from killing it? While this process is now well understood in humans, pregnancies in the animal kingdom still provoke many unanswered questions. I didn't even know that. I did not know that they were still largely uncertain about that. That's pretty wild. An international team under the leadership of the Geomar Helmholtz Center for Ocean Research Kiel has intensively studied the unique male pregnancy in 12 species of pipefishes and seahorses. You know, I did know the male seahorses got pregnant, but I didn't know about the pipefishes. That's added to the list. Not that I had a list, but if I did. In some species, the males carry the eggs only on their trunk. In others, they protect them by skin flaps or even placenta-like systems which supply the offspring with nutrients and oxygen. Wow. Well, I'm just cliched, mean boy, you know that. By comparing the genomes of pipefishes and seahorses, we discovered that in the evolution of male pregnancy, the immune system pathways responsible for self and non-self recognition have changed considerably, explains Dr. Olivia Roth from Geomar, first author of the paper, which now appeared in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Moreover, we detected that genes maintaining essential functions in female mammalian pregnancies are also activated in male pregnancies. This suggests that pregnancy, whether male or female, relies on similar molecular mechanisms, and that similar genes are altered in their function in the evolution of a pregnancy. Wow. That is some heavy stuff there. I'm not going to lie to you. That is pretty cool. In general, I love things that break the convention, the assumptions. Life is more complex than we imagine it is. And see things like this, and it's kind of a reminder, whatever you assume about the world, it may not be as simple as the world has been telling you it is. And I'll just leave that float out there, because we're about ready to get head into the news problem. Before we do, let me read some of the headlines here that we missed. So we have China's mass diplomacy wins support in Eastern Europe. KGMI. It's essentially about how China is using its medical supply reliefs to win favor in Eastern Europe. And man, they are winning favor in Eastern Europe, especially Serbia. The Serbs are like, yo, man, you and I, man. I could see why the Serbs picked China. China would be wonderful. I love seeing China have to take on the burden of empire, though. That's one thing I do kind of love. It's more expensive than it seems, China. You're about ready to find out. And it's going. When China starts to get tangled up in stuff, oh my! It has yet to get fundamentally tangled in any wars, in any large scale wars at any time, anywhere in the near futures or in the near past. So it's setting itself up for that possibility. Discovery of T cells responses spectrum could help understand immune diseases and reveal drug targets. From Science Daily, I'll just let that float out for you. Scientists discover supernova that outshines all over. Science Daily. Okay, big old light. A synthetic that outdoes nature's intricacy. Science Daily. And then this is the 8 o'clock show, which is the... Yeah, these are the briefs. We're in the briefs, sir. These are the briefs. Say the briefs. Now we get to the dialectical. That's at 9 o'clock. That's the last show for the evening on the Action Batsa YouTube channel. So we'll see you then. Not you guys. Hold on. I don't want to leave the light on. Gotta turn that light off before I leave the scene. Yep. There you go. Come on. I didn't hit it? Oh, don't you hate it when you hit something and you think you hit it and then it doesn't respond and you realize that you didn't hit it? So even though you thought, never mind. We're about ready to get set up here for it. Let me get a little bit scrunchies here. A little bit of pneumatic shift or something. Something up. Oh, I know what's wrong. Hold on 1 second. There we go. There we go. We just had to adjust things a little bit because we showed too much of the background. You guys don't need to look behind the tent. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. We're about ready to get set to do the last segment of the day. Let me get my little Hello Kitty water in there. You can see the. There you go. 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 We're gonna get some. I thought that was worthy. That's good water. That's good. Yo, man, that's some good water. That is artisanal water. Who did that? I forget. I forget who did that skit. Artisanal water. Artisanal water is the Shazama. The Shazama. Let's get ready to do our dialectical. Are you ready? I know you're ready. Let's do this. Let's punch this puppy in the head. Let's make this happen. Two men enter, one man leave. Two men enter, one man leave. Two men enter, one man leave. Or two women, or whatever. When nation states battle to the death, we root for the one we live in. The Chinifying of America has already happened. It's okay, everything's fine. The Chinifying of America has already happened thanks to the American media. It is difficult at times to write about China without feeling compelled to offer multiple caveats to the words that I speak. The title of this dialectical is a bit on the sensational side. Intentionally so, and by the title I mean the first one, or the second one. The Chinifying of America has already happened thanks to the American media. And so, I believe, not as sensational as some might imagine, but still, it is a title that vilifies one nation state and its alleged allies, the American media. The vilification of the American media is deserved for numerous reasons, but certainly for their decisions to choose China over the land filled with the people they allegedly serve. But the vilification of China at the glorification of America? No, I'm not interested in dusting off the usual jingoistic fervor when one nation state's people find themselves potentially, real or imagined, under assault by another nation state. The nation states do what they do, dance the dances they've been engaging in for millennia. Not for right, wrong, but advantage. Plain, simple advantage. Wherever you can take advantage, you do. I mean, it's just what they do. It's what nation states do. The people of China are no more or less than the people of America. Our nation states are no more or less moral than the other. For various reasons, the Chinese model controls considerably more human action in aggregate than does the American one. These reasons are not the reflection of nobility or divinity, but the geographical, geopolitical circumstances of the people that have inhabited these separated lands, at least in the last 200 or so years. And it is important to keep a perspective that does not allow you to imagine you are the angel in the exchange, any more than whoever would do, or anyone, any more than whoever you imagine is really a devil. The Chinese state is doing what states do to advantage their position, just as any nation state would do in their circumstance, with their particular historic vehicles of power that have kept the killers in control. But this is the same story for all nation states that ever were, that are, and ever will be. It's the very nature of the beast. As for the American media, however, living in the very land you lay open for invasion, well, there's a level of violations of trust I'd imagine offer no redemption arc in the end, save for a very few who choose now to lay bare the secrets that reveal just how real these ties are, the ties between the CCP and the American media corporations. I mean, this isn't whacked out conspiracy. This is direct ties between all of these major American companies. Well, not all, but many of these major American companies and the CCP. And then this includes our media and our news outlets, all of them. And it's all over markets. 1.5 billion consumers of digital products just waiting to grant superpowers to the American elite, and all for a small price. Make America align with the values of the CCP. And so it goes. This is from Town Hall. Can we talk about American media's connection to Chinese interests? And here's an excerpt from it. Every single major broadcast and cable news outlet covering the COVID-19 pandemic has a direct and critical interest in pleasing the communist regime in China. Every single one of them. To understand this critically important connection between these American news outlets and the Chinese government, you only need to understand the power of the Chinese market when it comes to the film industry. It's not breaking news that the Chinese market is the single most important region for growth and revenue for Hollywood. Yeah, it's not even that now it's already, for many of them, already its biggest source of revenue. It's what it promises to be in the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to maybe double or triple the potential for the American companies to make easy money. Easy, mega scale money. Is nothing in America can touch what they might be able to do in China. It's like all the major powers, that's where they want to set up. And that makes sense. That's where they make the most money. But they do so. They don't, well, I think they're starting to understand, because some companies now are starting to pull out, but I don't think they really took China's authoritarianism ever that seriously. These are the same companies that pledged to be joining the fight to bash the fash. The same companies. That's what's so hideous about this whole thing. And the films are only allowed to be shown in China if the communists in Beijing give permission. That's the beauty of a totalitarian communist state. Nobody in the country sees Avengers Endgame unless the authoritarians are accommodated. Well, we have the same situation in America here. It's just that we don't have as much leeway to censor as he does. But we have way more than we should. Much has been written about the growing influence the Chinese censors have on the product coming out of Hollywood. Both conservatives and liberal news outlets have lamented this growing trend. The influence of Chinese censors is often depicted in amusing anecdotes like this NPR feature explaining how a Tom Cruise blockbuster was modified to assuage the communist propagandists. Now I'm returning back to me. That's the end of their thing. If you live in this land, America, ask yourself if you welcome the handing over of the advantage that your family, your friends, your neighbors, the people that you like on TV, the people that you like at the stores you shop, over to the highest bidder. And the profit from the sale never reaches any of the people you love, the ones who lose the advantage that gave them the lives that they were leading, the lives they can live no more. This is the blood and bone reality of living in a land tied, as you are, to the circumstance of the dance between nation states. And your circumstance has fetched you up with one, not in spirit, not in belief, but blood and bone circumstance. The place where you eat, the place where you sleep. Even if the narrative supports the Donald, the boogeyman for some of you, it would behoove you to reconsider your family, your friends, the cool barista at the Starbucks, and the diminished lives you'd be supporting if you'd rather see more of your resources, your advantage, sold off to the highest bidders than to do anything that might advantage the Donald, because racism, because bigotry, because we'd rather the whole world burn than to listen to any of you anymore. Of course, there's a better way, but that way doesn't involve nation states. And honestly, it doesn't involve violence. And so long as this is the game that 99+% of you want to continue to play, this is the cold reality. When it comes to China and Trump, go Trump. But God help us if soon we do not find another way. Sans the Donald and the Z. I think that is... Let's see if I want to say a couple... I don't know if I have much more to add to this right now without going into a long diatribe that I'm trying to enjoy. I'm trying to cut down the length of this show, so I have to cut down some when I have thoughts that I know are going to lead me down a path that might be 10, 15 minutes long. I try and cut some of those off. So all the things that I'm thinking about, they would possibly go down that path. So I'll just say that I'll try to keep this brief. Heaven help me if I don't. We live in a time where we have multiple factors at play. Racism and bigotry is very real in America, and has been, and it almost always will be, especially when you have, well, I won't get into that. And in times such as these, any types of factional divides that humans have, when there is more need, when there is more existential threat, unless everyone really is aligned and united in a threat, and I don't know the degree to which we are. I mean, I would love to be. I'm committed to be united with my fellow Americans to deal with this threat and the threat that the government now seems to want to impose on us. That's another matter altogether. So I'm all in for the unities. But during this time, especially when you are dealing with a nation state that is an actual racist supremacist state, China is a racist supremacist state. When you talk about China, I am all for... I don't know that I want to necessarily ostracize people or demonize them, or... I mean, I would suggest to them to consider... When you talk about China, because we have so many folks, we have so many, just any Asian American, it doesn't matter. You're all Chinese now. I mean, that's the reality. Not that you really are, I'm just saying, in America, you're all Chinese now for significant numbers of people. Anybody that looks Asian, anybody that has the certain, I forget the name of the scientific name for the type of eyes that Asian folks. They're not the only ones, but it is a dominant feature. And so anybody that has eyes like that, essentially, you're all Chinese now. And we have a lot of people. There's a lot of reasons to hate China if you're American. Especially if you're an American and you don't have some degree of balance in your understanding that America is no saint. There are no... Objectively speaking, there are no good guys here. It's just the reality of power is that America is the land that you live in. You would love to get to a point where the land that you live in didn't fundamentally rely on gutting the hearts out of lives off your shores, which is what empires always do. We're an empire, and China is an well, it's I'd call it an empire by now. So China's an empire too. It's about ready to be launching into that itself. So, I do believe that it is dangerous to not offer a counter when you're talking about what China is doing. When you're talking about that China is essentially a fascist state. Call it a Nazi state. It's a form of a Nazi state. They're not exactly alike, but there are significant similarities between the two. But then that becomes Chinese people are Nazis. And that is something that is just, whenever you're talking about China being a Nazi state, I think it behooves you to take the time to pause. And again, I'm just suggesting, I don't want to come off like a moral certainitarian this is how you should be, but I think it's a good idea to offer the counter, to check, at least give an opportunity to check. I don't want to be part of spreading hatred. I'm against hate speech laws. I'm not exact. There is a recognition that some speeches has a tendency to possibly incite hate. You could call that hate speech. But when you're getting into legal, technical terms, then I'm not interested in your conversation anymore. But I think that we should really work. We have so many Americans that are Asian Americans that are friends, families. I have family members that definitely would probably be assumed to be Chinese. They're not, but they would be assumed to be. So we all have, many of us across the divides have friends, family. So we have an interest to try to make sure that when our friends and family go out, they're not actually met by this brutality that is a result. But at the same hand, I am not going to, and nor should we, not talk. I don't shut down and not talk about difficult topics. It's, but so far, I could be. I'm just going to say that I do not have huge numbers, and it's not. I'm not doing any. I'll just say this: I am not doing any myself any favors in the stories that I talk about, in the manner that I speak, and what I'm willing to say right now. Because I'm saying all these things that the social media platforms, which are really the mega corporation, what they don't want you to say right now. These are the things that I'm talking about and saying. So their algorithms, if I'm going to have any kind of luck on their algorithms alone, it's going to have to be. Now, it's not going to happen probably because of the things that I talk about. So I think that this having the ability to speak about what China is as a true threat, not just to America, but to many nations that wish to maintain their own degree of stewardship, because China wants to take away your stewardship. It really does. And it sees itself as having a national mandate. It now has a global mandate to basically to usher in socialism around the world, but with China always as the head of that hierarchy of socialism. Socialism with Chinese characteristics. Adolf Hitler would have a wet dream if he was in the same situation right now as Chairman Z. Chairman Z is where Adolf Hitler was going to war to be. Chairman Z, I don't know if he exactly has all of his Lebensraum or whatever that's called, that having the enough land for the race to thrive on. I imagine China probably wants to extend its territory. If I was Australia, I'd be Australia. By the way, if there's any Australian outlet that is pro-Chinese, they need to be gone, because China is most assuredly an existential threat to Australia. China will eventually, if they have the capacity, if America doesn't have the capacity to protect Australia, China will take over Australia. Australia is a population of, 17 million, something like that? China will take Australia easily. Australia doesn't have a chance. And China there will be no Australians or Aborigines left. They'll be dead or gone. It'll all be China. It'll be a Chinese colony. And, I mean, they're not doing anything that any other nation state hasn't done. So it's just that if you're Australia, it sucks to be Australia. So that's kind of the reality of power that we're looking at here. And we want to be able to talk about China and talk about what China is in relation to the rest of the world. And the world has to decide whether it likes having a neighbor like that around. I'm suggesting that it shouldn't. But I wouldn't want to... I wouldn't want to foster hatred of Chinese. Only Chairman Z's China, not China in aggregate, all the Chinese people. I don't want any Chinese people to die except for the ones that are willingly, knowingly participating in doing actions that directly harm the land that I live in. If they're not doing that, then I don't want anybody to die. No one. No one to be harmed. I want China to thrive and be a great nation. And I just don't want them to continue to operate under the parameters that they currently are. And with that, I will come to an end of the show. Well, the end of this segment. Don't forget to tip your Frico at Frico.com tips. That's Frico.com tips. Send me some money. So you go, look, you click on, if you go to Frico.com, you'll see these little buttons. You click on this bad boy button here. Come on. There you go. Watch this. Watch this. Watch me now. Watch me now. And then you got $1, $2, $5. Other amount. If you put in another amount, make it like 15 zeros and then a 1 at the end. But the 1 should not be on the right side. It should be on the left side. The 1's at the left side. And that will be good. I don't even know how much money that is, but whatever. You do that and I'll solve all the world's problems. I'll end climate change and racism and poverty and bigotry and everything. I assure you I will do it. So we'll see you tomorrow on the YouTube channel, Action Batsa. If you're not subscribed to Action Batsa, why? Why are you not subscribed to Action Batsa on the YouTube channel, Action Batsa, Action Base? We'll see our 4 o'clock segment, the headline show, tomorrow, 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for the rest of you, oh, hold on. Didn't turn off the music. Gonna turn out the lights. There you go. The lights turn out. I can leave the room now. Left the room. I've left the room. So I want to thank everybody who has joined us for the entirety of the show. And I have this one giant silent section, which I'll have to figure out if I can cut out in the YouTube thing. I might not. I'll just let it there. Because honestly, the segments are really where it's at anyway. So I'll put the segments out. The segments don't have any problems with them. So that all worked out. So that's what happens when you're an idiot. And I do my best. And because I'm a stoic, that allows me to continue on. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we have a little bit of a last little parting to anybody that I may have offended and you thought I'm crazy or whatever. Got this little thing for you, man. I love you all, man. Unless you're doing something to directly try to threaten to harm me, I want to coexist with you. We can figure this out. We can come up with a way within the Bill of Rights frameworks. We can come up with a way for a lot of us, a lot more than you think, probably maybe 80% or more of us, to coexist and to form a more consensual union. How about that? We could form a more consensual union than the one we have today. And with that, I bid you good night.
Thank you for engaging with this material presented. As usual, remember your views, your suppositions do not make you subhuman, nor do they permit you to subhumanize others. No humans were harmed in the making of the show, and we extend no wish of harm to anyone who hasn't directly harmed or threatened to harm others first, no matter how reprehensible we find your views.
We will see you in the next Frico Talks, where Frico attempts to talk about news without freaking out.